My buddy Steve is an expert knife maker. He makes kitchen knives for a living. You can check him out at Pellegrino Cutlery. And Steve is a former student of mine from the School of Visual Arts many years ago, and now he's an accomplished knife maker, and I invited him back to my shop to teach me how to make a knife from his perspective. I pretended I knew nothing, and we jumped in together. I start by cutting my own profile, and then he cuts his profile. We got our profiles cut.
Yes. So I have sort of a utility knife, sort of a small petty, chef's knife kind of deal.
Is that what it's called, a petty chef's knife?
Yeah, it's a small one, you know, rather than like a big size, full size. Now we're going to lay in our pre-heat treat bevels. Right. We're going to start grinding on both sides, and we want to make sure that they're symmetrical. Right. Because when we go into the heat treat, if one side has more meat on it than the other, it's going to get all funny and start. It'll turn
it's going to pull it or something?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
It won't stay straight. You know.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so we just got to mark them out.
Right. We use
put some
Dicom.
scribe lines on. Yeah, use some Dicom.
I got some.
Scribe into it.
And you want to drill holes on yours? I'm not going to drill yet. I'm going to etch later. I can etch after it's hard, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, last thing, because you want to do all the polishing and stuff before that. But yeah, I'm going to drill 2 holes for pins.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right, I'm just going to etch later, so I'm leaving mine as is. Here you see the knife I made. I ended up electro etching it. You'll see how I do that by the end of the video. And this is the knife Steve made. He left it with me, and we've been using it in the kitchen. So you can see the difference. My knife actually ends up being a lot simpler as far as construction goes, and Steve put on these brass knuckles at the front of the wooden handles in Burbinga. And so we both took a little bit of a different approach.
This is 1095 high carbon steel.
And I'm using 01.
Correct.
Right?
Oil quench, yeah.
Oil quench. This just happened to be what I had. It just happened to be what you had.
That's right.
And now we got our profiles and we got our bluing.
So this is just steel blue. I marked out where my bevels will be. And then I'm going to grind up to this line. And we have, you probably can't see, I have a center line scribed on mine. So does Jimmy. And we're going to grind up to that mark.
And I'm going to stop here because I don't want to have a razor's edge here. What is this called?
The ricasso.
The ricasso.
So you're gonna set up a plunge line just here.
Yeah. So this is just to keep me from going over.
Right.
And since this is a little Starrett machinist screw thing I got for $2, I don't mind if it gets scratched. All right, we got our grinds done. I had to clean mine up with a file because I'm not quite as experienced as you to keep that right where you want it. But you made yours the full bevel. You came here, you made a sharp line, and then you brought it all the way to the other side.
That's right. Pretty much a full flat. I kind of blended out the grind line, but I kind of like it that way. It's nice and smooth.
Yeah, so this is a kitchen knife, and I'm doing more of a beefier utility knife. I see this ultimately finished with a serration right back here. I always like knives that have a serration in the last couple inches. So ultimately, if I'm going to make this a ongoing design, I'm going to do that. But what's next?
Next, we're going to heat treat these things.
Before we heat treated them, we heated the knives up to critical temperature and then we let them cool back down. I think we did it twice for each knife. Steve likes to do that to release any of the tensions in the metal. I think it ensures a better heat treat so that you don't get a curve in it or something like that.
So again, this is 01 and you are at...
1095.
Now, what's the difference between these? Like, is your knife going to be sharper, or is this one going to be sharper? What's better?
1095 has a lot more carbon in it. So, technically speaking, yeah, this could actually be a harder, sharper knife.
Right.
But 01 is much tougher.
All right.
So actually, for what you're doing,
right,
it's a good choice.
Could I stick this into sheet metal and twist it and cut a hole in the sheet metal?
Probably.
And not chip this too easily?
There's only one way to find out.
Coming up next. Kinikore apple. Next, fine grind.
Yes, we're going to clean these up. We're going to do surface grinding, so we'll get to final thickness on the bevels.
Right.
And then we'll just get all the scale off, get them down to, or rather, up to a higher grit, so they're nice and smooth, and then we'll do handles.
Great.
Or I will.
Right. Then I'm going to do etching.
Right.
I like how Steve put his whole body into his grinding. He had his stance, his shoulders, his body, his torso all went into the grind. He didn't just work from his wrists, he worked from everything.
So that's about the thickness I want, and it's all pretty clean, so from here we can buff it.
And then will you sharpen it again?
Yeah, so we'll do this, the final sharpening will be on Waterstones.
All right.
Yeah.
This is where Steve jumps into making his handle parts. He starts out with 2 pieces of brass that are crazy glued together or CA glued together, and he makes them symmetrical. He starts by drilling a hole through both of them, and then he grinds them, and then he separates them with a torch. Steve's scales are made out of Burbinga wood that I had in the shop, and he is using CA glue to hold everything in place. He's going to also have pins in it as well. But through the handle, he glued on one scale, drilled the holes through the wood, flipped it over, glued the other scale on, flipped it over, and drilled back through. So that's how you could match all 3 sets of holes, either side, and then the steel handle.
Very symmetrical.
Yeah, just gotta, hit it with some sandpaper to make it a little bit nicer, but...
Beauty.
Thank you. Yeah, the pins kind of blended in nicely, you can still kind of see. It's a little yellower, a little more orange.
Let me see the bounce on it. Yeah, it feels nice.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Right. This thickness now is like maybe 5/1000th of an inch thick. These are almost touching. So now we're going to use a 400 grit stone and bring these together and create a burr. And from there we'll move up to the 1000 grit, up to the 6000 grit, and slowly refine our edge. But what we're going to do is put a secondary bevel on this down here. It'll only be about a 1/16th in width. The hardest part is maintaining the same angle so that I'm not making a round, I'm making a flat. That's really the trick. And it's really the same principle as doing this bevel. It's just a lot smaller and at a different angle.
Steve etches all his knives with this little personalizer. It is a little etcher. You make the little masks, he prints the masks and puts them through some sort of developer, and that's how he ends up with the little masks, and then he puts the chemical on the electrode or whatever that might be called, and it etches through the mask, and that's how you get small little refined logos on some of the blades.
That looks very nice.
Let's see.
DiResta.
Wow, that's it. Can I feel that? Will I be able to feel it?
Yeah.
It is a really nice little process.
Yeah.
Like, I get that wood messed up.
Because if you don't do it enough and you want to do it more, you can go back and line it up.
Very nice. Do it the right way.
What advice would you give to young knife makers or anybody wanting to start doing this? Is there one or two good pieces of advice you could recommend?
I think the best advice I could give is don't be afraid to start. You don't have to have the best tools, you just have to want to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
You're making a living and you have a belt grinder you bought on eBay for $300.
That's right. It's the same one I got when I started.
And you don't even know what it's called. That's right.
It's a 2x48.
All right, 2x40.
They're not the cheapest in the world, but they're usually affordable and they're very available.
So yeah, that's the one thing I noticed about you. You have a very cold set of tools, nothing elaborate. Like me, I would buy every single thing, and the last thing I would do is actually make a knife. I'd spend all my time buying tools, less time making knives.
Yeah. I'm a tool guy too, but I think that the best thing to do is just get going.
Yeah, and keep it simple.
Yeah.
Good work. Thanks for the lesson.
Thank you, man. My
We'll
pleasure.
do it again, and maybe we'll do it up here at the farm.
All right.
Maybe.
After Steve left, I wanted to experiment with electro etching. That's where you take a charger, battery charger, you put the plus on the knife itself, the negative on a sacrificial piece of metal in water, and the water is full with salt, and the molecules of the metal remove from the positive and redeposit onto the negative. So when you have it masked off, the metal will only move from where it's exposed on the mask. Then you get some texture. I cut a lot of the sheath on the laser and it burned too much. It didn't cut through very well. So I made a second one. I realized the best way to make a sheath is one where the actual knife will keep from pulling out this way, because this knife is intended to always be in your front pocket. So having it kick up and out like that, and then this way, when this is down in your front pocket, it pulls out with the knife because it comes off like that. So I made 3 sheaths just about to get it right, and it's still not perfect, but product development. Thank you for following along. I love this idea of me just coming into something with a brand new approach and documenting it. Maybe I'll try and do more of videos like this. It's a little off the beaten path for me, but it was a lot of fun learning, and I got a cool new product out of it. I'm going to try and make more of these. See if I can get them laser cut. Thank you for watching.